Welcome to our third webinar in this three-part webinar series on somatic parts work for self-awareness and healing. Today, we are talking about the body-mind connection and this concept of self-leadership. So for those who don't know me, my name is Glenda Miles. I am a psychotherapist, a therapeutic yoga teacher, and a mindfulness teacher. As I have been stating in the previous webinars, this is for informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for mental health support. If you are suffering, please reach out and seek professional, individualized support as needed. And if you need any assistance with that, please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to provide any resources or references that you may need. So let's get started. So in our first webinar, we talked about an introduction to IFS, internal family systems, and as it relates in particular to anxieties. We used anxiety as one of the gateways to kind of explore IFS. In our second, we explored this idea of defensiveness, right? When some of our parts get activated and how we might be able to manage that to create more connection in our relationships. And today we're really focused on this idea of creating mind-body connection or practices that support mind-body connection as a way of cultivating self-leadership. And in particular, I'm going to introduce a mnemonic that I've developed called Purpose that really speaks to self-leadership. And then we'll be moving through a practice together related to that. So what is this body-mind connection or mind-body connection? I see it written both ways. I probably have written it both ways, by the way, and I don't think it really matters. In fact, I think it's interesting sometimes to put the body first instead of the mind, because usually we talk about the mind-body connection. What is this? It makes it seem like these are separate things, right, that we're connecting together. And what we know is that there's an intricate, a complex relationship between our thoughts, our emotions, the sensations that exist in our body or that happen in our body, and our brain. And all of these things kind of are in this dance, a continual dance together, and have this relationship together that you can't separate one from the other. And it's also this understanding, at least when we talk about the body-mind connection, is the understanding that mental states can really influence our physical health, and our physical health can influence our mental states. All you need to do is think about a time when you were really tired and exhausted, and how that might have affected your thoughts, your emotions, and even your behaviors as a result. And certainly what might result from that. So cultivating, and there are ways that we can cultivate this relationship, or this, let's call it fluidity, between our mind and our body, or at least our brain and our body, because I would think mind is actually the totality of self. It's all around us, from the tactile awareness that we have to the interoception, of course, and all of the rest of it. So when we do things that allow us to cultivate a stronger connection between our mind and body, right, so that it's more fluid and seamless, this is essential for this idea of self-leadership, because it enhances self-awareness. And self-awareness and self-leadership go hand in hand. So when we are attuned to our body, we can recognize those physical sensations and emotional cues that indicate maybe if we're out of alignment with our true self. So if you're not familiar with that, I'll talk about it in a minute, but we certainly have talked about it in the previous two webinars, where core self, or true self, if you will, our authentic self, we have lots of words for it. We call it spirit, soul, like people have lots of words for this idea, right, of this core self that's within us. And certainly as it relates to IFS, core self is typically the term that they use. So this awareness allows us to respond thoughtfully, respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. And that's really important, right? We see the ability to maintain healthy relationships, looking at this as being one of those core aspects of how we can build healthy relationships together, right? Our ability to kind of be with our emotions and still be able to listen and attune to another person. And we talked about that in our last episode around connection and kind of working through that. When we talk about self leadership, and this is something I'll be talking more and more and more about, um, over the coming weeks and months, as I've been kind of sitting with this idea of, okay, well, what do we call this other than, nervous system regulation? And even that, it's like, but why are we doing that, right? Like, what is the impact of that on this? And so part of it is this idea of self leadership, which is the practice of intentionally, and intentionally is important, guiding and managing your inner systems, right? The thoughts, the emotions, the behaviors, the things that are happening within us, so that we can act from a place of clarity, inner clarity, compassion, and confidence, rather than these automatic reactive parts of ourselves, right? And so, from an IFS perspective, we're like, it's the core self that's in charge, not the parts that may be reactive or kind of gearing up at any given time based on the situation around us. And so, from an IFS perspective, self leadership is led by the core self. The core self has these qualities to it, like all the C words, all the lovely C words: curiosity and courage and calmness and confidence and compassion. And it's very much aligned with polyvagal theory in terms of ventral vagus. So ventral vagal, when we're in that state, all of these things, we're more in our core self at that place as well. So there's alignment, if you will, between those models, therapeutic models or lenses that we can evaluate ourselves, right? And our relationships to the world around us. So cultivating self-awareness, this idea of self-awareness is really important, especially, of course, through this idea of body mind or mind body connections. This allows us to strengthen our self-leadership because we're connecting more to self, right? We're like, okay, self-awareness is that part of me recognizing what's going on. Now I can make conscious choices about something, as opposed to just being on autopilot and reacting based on our parts, right? Trying to protect us, but maybe not necessarily making the best decisions for us. So, this means, of course, tuning into our body and our mind to better understand our internal landscape. This idea of interoception, right? Our ability to kind of map out our inner world and what's going on and being in connection with it. And of course, this is very much interrupted for many people, especially those who've lived through traumatic events in their life, or have developed disassociative patterns in their life. They may be really cut off from interoception. So interoception is something that they have to cultivate more of, which very much relates to, again, self-awareness and self-leadership. And this really allows us to be a bit more grounded and centered and acting from that place, and acting from that place, when in particular when we're dealing with some challenges. It's almost like having that anchor, so we're not moving around and kind of being flipped around by life's challenges and the ups and downs that inevitably occur for all of us. So I want to introduce this mnemonic purpose. So from the aspect of self-leadership, so being more self-led, right? Again, that should actually be a capital S, self-led, is about cultivating more purpose and emphasizing things like self-discovery, intentionality, and resilience. And so we're going to go through each of these and talk a little bit about them, just to kind of get your head wrapped around how these things might very much, as you work on them, right, or act from that, you are being more self-led, capital S, self-led. So the first one is passion, then understanding, resilience, planning, openness, self-awareness, engagement, purpose. Passion, understanding, resilience, planning, openness, self-awareness, and engagement. So let's go through each of them. Let's start with passion. Of course, right? Passion can be the driving force behind many of our actions and our decisions if we tap into those passions and unlock maybe a source of intrinsic motivation. So often we are very much extrinsically motivated to do something, right? I go to work because I get paid, right? I do this because of whatever might happen, some accountability often outside of ourselves. What if we tapped into our own internal passions, right? And allowed that to be a driving force in our life? Imagine how much more rewarding and fulfilling your life might be. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, as well, that life isn't going to have its challenges, but we can then be fueled by creativity and perseverance and enthusiasm, and really allowing that to help us stay committed to our goals. Even when challenges arise, right? Of knowing, perhaps some people might call it their calling, and really feeling passionate about whatever they do. And it really doesn't matter what that is. And for everyone, it's a little different, often based solely on our strengths and our gifts, and of course, our interests as well. But that which we're pretty good at is usually linked to that which we're interested in as well. Not always, but usually. By aligning our life with what we're passionate about. Okay, so here we are. We're going to talk about passion again. So, P for passion. Passion is the driving force behind our actions and our decisions, or it can be. And when we tap into our passions, we can unlock a source of intrinsic motivation. And that can make us feel, all of our efforts feel much more rewarding and fulfilling. So passion can fuel creativity, it can fuel perseverance, enthusiasm, and in particular, it can help us stay committed to our goals even when challenges arise, right? We can kind of move in and back, move out and back in again, right? And because this is kind of this steady source potentially for us. And so by aligning our life with that which we are most passionate about, we can find more meaning and joy in our daily activities, leading to a richer and more satisfying life. Now, people's passions sometimes are really hard to identify. Sometimes, people will say, well, I don't know what that is. And sometimes you have to play around with it. We can usually link back to our strengths and what we're good at, leading back, if you had a whole day to just do whatever, what would you do? And doing nothing isn't an option. So thinking about that, or allowing yourself even the space to explore what that could be, is another option. So you understanding, do you understand your personal values and beliefs? This is foundational to living really authentically. A lot of times we grow up and we inherit values and beliefs from our parents, from the culture, from the society that we grow up in, the school that we attend, the friends that we hang out with. All of these can really guide and influence, or even just directly impose, in some cases, personal values and beliefs. And at some point, I think it's a worthy endeavor to start to look at what values are guiding our current behaviors and decisions, because that really shapes how we interact with the world, and maybe altering those if needed, right? And getting clear about what your values are at this point in your life, not just the inherited values and beliefs that you may have gained from those people around you. So when we make choices that are aligned with who we truly are, right, and values reflect who we truly are, this can lead to greater fulfillment and a really much stronger sense of overall purpose. Values act as a compass in life, helping us to stay true to ourselves even in difficult situations. So one of the things I was just writing about was this idea of, are our actions aligned with our values? And sometimes it's really important to know what those values are. And second, to kind of take a moment to check in with ourselves when we're about to make a decision to do something and ask, is this aligned with my values? And if it's not, honoring that, and finding a way to communicate that to those around you, that maybe you're going to be making some different decisions now based on these values. Values can change, by the way, right? Like, we can work towards and be more conscious about the values that we really want to inhabit, if you will. And so, what is a value? A value is something that we have deemed important, right? So, whether that's, honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, like, these are values that we we might aspire to. So, values can be aspirational for sure, but also remembering that often this is what we judge others by, is that the set of values that we hold, right? Like, well, I wouldn't do that, right? I would do this. And that's kind of links back to, well, that's because that's what's important to you, right? That's your values. And somehow we have to allow a bit of space, though, for other people who have a different set of values, or a different set of priorities of those values, if you will. So, R is resilience. Resilience is the capacity to recover. This is quickly, but I'm going to say just recover from difficulties and adapt to change. And what does this mean? It means that we go through periods of stress when there's a challenge or a period of change. There's stress in the body, not necessarily bad stress, right? Distress, but stress. And our ability to come back to this place of balance or homeostasis or calm, whatever you might call it, right? That's our ability to be resilient. So the quicker we're able to recover, the more resilient we are. And resiliency is like a muscle. The more we work at it, right, the stronger the muscle is. And some challenges take us a bit of time to recover. Certain changes take a bit of time to kind of come back to some place of balance within our systems. I can think of a few times when I've moved, right? And it takes a little bit of time to settle into a new place and get everything organized. And that includes your inner state of being as well, even when it was a positive change. So it's essential for maintaining purpose, especially when facing challenges and setbacks, right? So resilient individuals can navigate obstacles without losing sight of their purpose. So we know that this purpose or goal is still here, or there's intentionality with how I'm moving through this. And so I can navigate the obstacles with more ease and grace. And that's going to build resiliency as well. Resiliency is also fosters a growth mindset, or a growth mindset fosters resiliency. I think it's a chicken and egg situation, right? So this really allows us to view failures as opportunities to learn and to grow rather than setbacks. And I was just having a conversation with someone about this, right? Like, failures are a part of the process that we all go through in order to reach whatever goal that we have. And if we can see it as part of the process, where it's an opportunity to learn, instead of going, oh my goodness, I failed, right? And what does that mean? And feeling like somehow there's something wrong with us, or that we have to retreat back even further. That can really set us back, or that we quit altogether because of that failure. The next P is planning. And I think that this is an interesting part of the process, but intentional goal setting is the process of really defining clear, purpose-driven objectives that align with your values and passions. Now, this doesn't have to be like, I don't know, in the third quarter, I'm going to achieve XYZ, like we do with business planning or business goals, right? But it may be like something that is like maybe a bit more fluid again, but still has some, again, future-oriented thing that we're moving towards, right? I want to be a more grateful person, right? That might be a goal. And so then it's like, okay, what are the actions that I need to take in order to get there? Without intentional goals, it's easy to kind of drift through life and we're just kind of like hanging out, right? And then one day we wake up and we go, well, where am I and how did I get here? And it's like, well, you were just floating down, right? The river. And it's like, okay, we got to be a bit more intentional. We have to guide the boat, if you will, right? So that we know where we're going. Purpose-aligned goals provide a roadmap for achieving what truly matters to you. And so helping you focus as well your energy on what will bring you fulfillment and success. And it also really provides these measurable milestones so we can also celebrate, which is a really important part of the process as well, and stay motivated, because when we know we've come a certain distance, right, we feel much more motivated to continue on. The openness here is really about opening our mind, opening our heart to the idea of growth and learning, which is really essential for self-leadership and personal development. But it's also about just having an open mind to new ideas, to opening to change, because change can bring new things with it, right? New experiences, new challenges, new people potentially as well. So a growth mindset allows individuals to embrace those challenges and to really seek new experiences and evolve. And so openness also fosters creativity and innovation. It encourages the exploration of these new perspectives and solutions. So, when sometimes I think as humans, we can get stuck. We can get stuck in our own mind of like, this is how it's supposed to be. And when we come with a more open idea of things, we recognize that there are many ways to get there. There are many paths to the destination, to the goal. And so allowing yourself to start, to take action and go. And as you go, you learn and you make those shifts and those course corrections as needed. And that's part of the process of getting to wherever you're going in life. Self-awareness. So this is obviously both an aspect of purpose, but also kind of a bigger picture of self-leadership altogether. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your own thoughts, emotions, behavior, right? It's about having that observer stance in our mind. There's a part of us that sees the thoughts, that's having the conversation with ourselves inside, right? That's noticing, oh, I'm feeling kind of sad today. That part of us, right, is the self, becoming more and more aware. And the more that we check in with ourselves and create that interoception, practicing that interoception, that landscape, the more that we do that, the more that we cultivate a relationship with self, right? That we allow self to be leading, to be communicating, to be creating more awareness of the intricacies of what's happening within us and in the world outside, as it relates to the world outside. It's a critical component of self-leadership. It allows us, of course, to then go, hey, I notice I'm feeling this way. Maybe I should do this instead of that, right? Maybe this action doesn't really align with my values. And so what if I did this, right? And allowing yourself to course correct based on the senses and the sensations that you're picking up internally. And by being more aware, self-aware, you can identify areas where you might be out of alignment then and making those necessary adjustments. It also really helps, in terms of self-reflection, right? Afterwards, with self-awareness, to go back into a situation and understand, why did I get so triggered there? What was going on for me? And how might I engage with that same situation in some future moment in a different way? And this really allows us to navigate our life with the idea of growth and evolution. Okay, and the last one is engagement. And this is really like, are we engaged in our own life? Are we engaged in the daily actions and the habits that's going to help move us closer to our goals? It's about consistently taking steps, no matter how small. And I do think that most of us kind of take pretty small steps most of the time, and that's okay. Gradual change is more sustainable often. Those small steps, right, that align with our goals and our values. So daily engagement keeps your purpose alive and dynamic, and ensure that it remains central part of your life, a central part of your life. It also helps build momentum again, right? When we've made a few steps and we see that we're making some progress, wow, we're much more likely to keep going and building that momentum and motivation to keep going. So all of that to say, here we are with the, I'm going to go back to here, purpose, right? So the passions and the understanding, resilience, planning, openness, self-awareness, and engagement all help us to be more self-led. And when we're more self-led, we're more on purpose, right? We're more authentic in our relationships, and we're living hopefully a more fulfilling life. And again, kind of thinking back to this idea of when our core self is leading. So what are some of the ways in which we can do this? Of course, there is those practices in each of them, but in particular, we want to focus on those that build that interoception, right? And that self-awareness, because the more self-awareness that we have, the more able we are to lead from self. So there is a plethora of practices out there. I have just, included a few of them, probably that are easily recognizable, easily accessible. They're all free, and just simple ways that you can. And there are also a wide variety because we all have different interests. So thinking back to your passions, what do you like to do? Do you like to write? Okay, well, maybe journaling or art therapy would be more up your alley, right? Something that you could have some sense of joy and enjoyment of as you do it, and also building this connection. We're going to do a short practice here for one of them. A slight difference of a body scan. I'm going to call it a soma scan, but of course, any movement practices, in particular yoga, tai chi would be another one where there's slow, mindful movements, and we're really having to be consciously aware of the movement of our body, which enhances proprioception, spatial awareness, vestibular awareness, all of these things that really help us in understanding our body and connecting our brain and our bodies together, which of course enhance this relationship to core self, so that core self can be leading. Mindful meditation, so more mindfulness practices, open awareness practices, for instance, progressive muscle relaxation, self-hypnosis would be included in that as well. Art therapy, music therapy, writing exercises, goal setting, planning, breath exercises. So I have box breathing here, but it can be lots of things, in particular, anything that is more balancing, unless you have an understanding of what's going on in your body. And then from a self-regulation perspective, do you need something to calm? Do you need something to energize? And using practices that might support that. So there's a plethora of ideas here. So let's practice together, okay? So if you would like to either come to a comfortable seat, really support yourself, and or you can also lie down, depending on when you're listening to this or watching this. For those of you here, maybe just taking a comfortable seat. If you're in a chair, put your feet on the ground. So if you're shorter, you may want to put something underneath your feet to just really give yourself the ability to relax your legs in the chair and doing whatever feels right for your body. We want to be pretty supported here. So, unlike a different type of meditation where you might have a strong back, soft belly, if you need to lean back in your chair, please do so. You can either lower your gaze and have a soft gaze, or close your eyes if that feels okay for you. Of course, all is an invitation. We want to turn our intention inward into our internal world. Begin by noticing your body breathing. Take 3 deep intentional breaths, inhaling slowly through your nose, filling your lungs completely, and then exhaling through your mouth with a gentle sigh, releasing any tension or stress that you may be holding. The body settle with each breath. Notice the body breathing. There's no need to change or control it. Just observe the natural rhythm of your breath. The sensation of the air as it enters and exits through your nostrils. Notice how your body moves with each inhale and exhale. You might feel your chest gently rise and fall. Perhaps your belly expands and contracts with each breath. Become curious about how your body breathes. To the top of your head. Begin to gently scan the area, noticing any sensations that may be present. Again, no need to judge, just observe. Take a mental note. If you feel tension or tightness, acknowledge it. If you feel relaxation or lack of tension, notice that too. Slowly bring your attention down to your forehead. Are your eyebrows relaxed or furrowed? Can you soften the space between your eyebrows and notice how it feels to release any tension there? Perhaps furrowing your eyebrows into a frown and then releasing. Move your awareness down to your eyes and your cheeks, allowing your eyelids to soften, feeling the muscles around your eye let go, release. Let your jaw relax, and clenching your teeth, your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Feel the muscles of your face grow soft. Attention now to your neck and throat. Notice any tightness or sensation here. If it feels tense, imagine your breath gently flowing into that space, creating more spaciousness and ease. Bring awareness now to your shoulders. Notice if you're holding any tension here. Maybe your shoulders feel heavy or tight. As you breathe, see if you can let them soften, gently falling away from your ears. Moving your awareness down your arms, your upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists. As you scan, noticing any sensations. Notice your hands relax completely. Maybe your palms are open, resting gently by your side or on your lap. Notice how your hands feel. Bringing your attention to your chest. Feel the movement of your breath here with each inhale. Notice how the chest expands. And with each exhale, feel it gently fall. Now your awareness down to your belly. Are you holding tension here? Maybe gripping or tightening without relaxing, realizing. Can you relax it? On your next exhale, allow the belly to soften. As you breathe, expanding it naturally. Take a moment to check in with any of the sensations, internal sensations in this area. What does your gut feel like? Are there any movements, gurgles, sensations? Observe with a sense of curiosity. Bring your attention to your hips and pelvis. Notice any sensations or tightness in this area. Many of us hold a lot of tension here, especially from sitting all day. Without With each exhale, allow your hips to relax and soften into the surface beneath you, really giving over all of the weight, your body to the chair support. Your awareness down to your thighs. Notice the weight of your legs resting on the chair. Let your attention travel down to your knees and your calves, and your ankles. What sensations are present here? Perhaps there is warmth or coolness, tingling, tension. What qualities are present? You bring your awareness to your feet. Feel the contact your feet make with the floor or mat. Notice any sensation in your toes or the soles of your feet. Let your feet fully relax. Now that you've scanned your whole body, take a moment to bring awareness to your body as a whole. How does it feel to be fully present to your body, in your body? Can you sense the connection between the different parts? Does your body feel lighter, more grounded, or simply more aware of the sensations that are present? As you take a deep inhale, allow yourself to fully exhale and release any remaining tension or heaviness, allowing yourself to be here in this moment, fully connected to your body and whatever sensations arise. Before making any movements or opening your eyes, just allow yourself to bring your awareness back to the room with eyes closed. Noticing yourself once again in the chair, wherever you're seated. Perhaps making some really gentle movements to begin with, wiggling your fingers or your toes. Taking a few conscious breaths, inhaling fully and exhaling fully. Bowing your head down so that the first thing you see as you open your eyes is your own body, giving thanks to it as you return to the room and to the screen if needed. So I will open it up for any questions. Also, of course, knowing that people are very much able to send any questions to me directly at hello@glendamiles.com, which will be included as a follow-up to those people who signed up. You will get an email with the link to this recording as well. I have a worksheet for the purpose, and it guides you through each of the sections as well as some questions and journaling. If that's your jam, you can download that on the website as well. And this will be up within the next, well, sometime today, this afternoon, depending, because of the little blip in the power. I might be doing more editing than normal, so be patient, but it'll be up there today and you will get the email by tomorrow. I thank you for being here. This is our final in this part series, although I'm sure we will be coming back to have more discussion about some of these things. Our fall webinar series, we're going to be doing a series of 3, one each month, October, November, and December. And our focus is going to be on navigating change and grief for healing. October 8th will be navigating change, so really understanding the emotional impact of transitions and what comes up for us. November 18th will be about grieving transitions, so exploring the role of grief in life changes, including for those of us getting a certain age and what that means. December 10th will be integrating healing, so finding stability and growth after grief and change. So how do we find our footing again after that happens, right? So how do we deal with the emotions of the transition? How do we then explore the idea of grief after that life change? And then how do we find stability and growth after, the aftermath of change? So I hope that you will join me for those. I'm looking forward to doing them. And I thank you so much for being here.